It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is Skid Row with Get the Fuck Out. And that goes out to our good friend in the chat room, J. Lee Anthony. He said he wanted to hear Get the Fuck Out exclusively here on the Classic Metal Show Network. And apparently he has a dedication for that. I'm trying to pull it up here real quick. He said, for all the PC fucking cock-sucking, ball-gargling, pussy strudel smackers, kneel down and hail and kill.
Wow.
It's pretty strong words.
That's a little offensive to me.
It's offensive to me, too, but I felt it was my duty to,
You're just passing along the message.
I am, more or less. More or less. But Bob Nalbandian wants to be a part of the show tonight.
Okay.
And Bob has allowed us to be a part of his show.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring him on and we'll talk to Bob and see what's going on with him.
Hey, there's Bob's big old head.
How about that?
Hey, that shit.
I bet you.
Oh, yo. I was calling the wrong number.
You were calling the wrong number?
I was calling the CMS line.
Oh, you said you were going to do it by Skype.
Yeah, I am, but I have all these different numbers in Skype here. So
yeah, you're just like Don and Chris's number. He can't figure out what number to call to get a hold of Chris.
Like four things here, and then I saw you calling in. So
this all works for us, Bob. It doesn't cost you a damn dime.
That's right. Can you hear me all right?
I can't hear what you're saying, Bob. What'd you say? What?
I said, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Neeley?
What's going on, Bob? What's happening in the world of Bob Nalbandian?
Now, are we already on, or are you?
Dude, you're on.
No, not on yet, Bob.
We're not on yet.
All right,
okay,
we're gonna come out of break.
Skid Row song.
Yeah, we're gonna come out of break real quick. Hang on a minute, Bob. Just hang tight. It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is Skid Row from their Slave to the Grind release, and that is Get the Fuck Out. And on the line with us, joining us here in the studio via the Skype, we got our good friend who gets the fuck out when we tell him to leave. But he's with us.
Get the fuck out, pal.
That's right. It's our good friend Bob Nalbandian. Welcome back to the Classic Metal Show, Bob. Glad to have you back.
Always a pleasure to be back, boys.
Where you been, Bob? I know you're busy with your T Radio V and the whole Inside Metal thing and your everything that you do. Are you making any money, Bob?
No, I'm not. That's why I'm going to have to put a donate tab. So I'm going to put my donate tab on my ball sack so people can donate.
And where would people see your ball sack in order to know that they need to donate if they're jiggling your balls?
Well, that's where they'll be seeing it. I'm just going to have to expose it more often.
Just in every glory hole?
Absolutely.
He's on the corner of Hollywood and Vine, jiggling his balls, says, please donate.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but he'd probably get more money that way than he would by actually putting a donate button on a website.
You're probably right, especially down on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Right. That's where the gays hang out.
And I'll wear my Rainbow Rising shirt, which I made the mistake of wearing down on Santa Monica Boulevard. And I was wondering why all the gays were complimenting me. I love that shirt. Great shirt. And I'm thinking, what are these guys, Rainbow fans? And then I realized a fist holding up a rainbow. If that's not the sign of gay pride, I don't know what is.
Right.
I wonder if Richie Blackmore thought about that when he was first forming Rainbow.
Right.
They have gay people in 1974, did they?
No, they did not exist. There were no such things as gay or lesbian people.
They were beaten to death at that point, right, Bob?
If you say so, Mr. Aiken.
Yeah, Chris Holmes.
You're the historian here.
Yeah, Chris Holmes was still trolling the streets, beating the fuck out of gay people.
That's right. Between Chris Holmes and Zach Wilde, no gays existed.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. So what's up, Bob? Where you been?
Well, I thought it's been a while since I called in. I invite you on my T Radio V show, but you guys don't invite me on, so I had to invite myself on.
Well, Bob, do we need to send you an invite?
Absolutely. I want a written invite.
Stop it.
That freaking door is open for Bob Nalbandian anytime.
I know. I just didn't have much to say, but I know you guys were always talking about Van Halen and AC/DC came through town, and this was a busy week for me. I was actually going to go to Scorpions tonight, but I needed a day off to call the CMS.
Well, you should have went to Scorpions because I went to them last Saturday.
Did you like it?
I was absolutely blown away.
Really?
It was fantastic.
Wow.
What did you hear?
Well, they're set. I mean, Scorpions. Every time I see them, they're amazing. They are so pro live, fucking great live band. I just heard the set list really sucked, and they did very few older songs.
Oh,
and
that's not true.
Warren.
Not true. You should have went.
Okay, I'm getting all these photos and video tapes or video clips from my buddy right now on my phone who's there, and he's saying it's awesome.
It is awesome. And Queensryche just blew me away.
Oh, they're opening, huh?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Damn, I should have went.
You should have went.
Holy shit. God damn, what am I doing calling you guys?
Yeah, no kidding, Bob. You probably
Well, dude, it couldn't have been any better than AC/DC. I'll start at that.
All right, we'll start off with AC/DC, Bob.
Absolutely blew me away. I was hesitant to go, as I was for Van Halen. We got, Toby and I, we got some free passes through our good friend Jonas Auckland, and he got us great seats. And I'm like, I don't know if I want my last memory of AC/DC to be shit. I saw him back with Bon Scott, Highway to Hell tour. So that's the AC/DC I want to remember. But, dude, I tell you, man, I was so fucking impressed. For one, it was the best sound I ever heard. This is Dodger Stadium. Place is packed. I'm looking way up to the top. Every seat there's filled, and we were right smack in the center, or in the floor. I mean, like about 30 rows back, and we were walking all over too for a bit. And the sound was amazing. Total high energy. A great set list. A good mix. I mean, they did a lot of the older songs, like "Let There Be Rock," of course, whole lot of Rosie, Sin City. So they, did a lot of cool stuff. And they did, I think they did only one or two from the new album. And of course they did all the hits and stuff. But, they just put on a fucking great show. Stevie Young, I don't give a shit what Eric Braverman says, dude. This is AC/DC. Van Halen sounded more like a cover band than AC/DC. AC/DC sounded like they did in their prime. And even Chris Slade, who I never liked in the band, I always thought he's dragged. I had seen him back in the 90s when he had filled in at that time when Phil Rudd was first out of the band. And I thought he sucked. And I thought he just totally dragged the band down because, Phil's kind of plays ahead of the beat. It sounded great. He learned how to play. I mean, everyone thinks AC/DC is so simple, but it takes a drummer that knows how to play that style to make it really gel. And they just gelled great. And Stevie Young, I remember him back in the Starfighters, Malcolm's nephew. Perfect fill-in. I mean, if you're going to fill in, he looked like a young Malcolm, played just like him, flawless. I mean, the band was totally flawless. And Angus, for being in his late 60s now, amazing.
Well, I find it interesting that you use the term for Chris Slade in the 90s as he was filling in.
Oh, no. You know what I meant to say is Stevie Young filled in for Malcolm back in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just...
Chris Slade was in the band for a while.
Yeah, he was. That's why I was saying he filled in. They left that chair open for Phil Rudd. They always knew he was going to be back, kind of like...
Well, they did get him back until he decided to hook up prostitutes and sell drugs.
Come on, Bob. Who hasn't hooked up with prostitutes and sold drugs? I thought
that's right.
I thought that was the way that you made your living.
And I just don't threaten to kill people. That's the only difference. See? 2 out of 3 is good. You just can't do the third one. That's
You just can't get caught. I've done all 3.
Well, that's true, but you're not a Phil Rudd, so.
No, thank God.
Bob,
Stevie Young actually filled in for Malcolm back in the 90s when Malcolm had some alcohol problems.
Sure.
And he was great back then. I actually saw him back then as well.
Right. I like the fact that you referred to him as Stevie Young, as if you're like best buds or something.
That's what he goes by, from what I understand. Stevie Young, right, Chris?
Hey, if you say so. I'm like his brother. I can't remember shit.
Well, there you go. It's actually not his brother; it's his uncle. It would be
same thing. I can't even remember that.
Very cool. But no, AC/DC were awesome. They really, I mean, the thing about it is all these bands, they play it smart. They come out once every 8 years. They don't overplay, like Priest, for example. Last time I saw Priest, it was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for them. It's like they looked old. They sounded old. They were just going through the motions. And, and that's kind of how I thought with Scorpions, that even though I know Scorpions are always professional live, I just thought they were kind of overplaying. Okay, we did our farewell tour. Now we're just going to milk it. And then I'm like, that always turns me off. But AC/DC, they do it right. They come around once every 8 years or whatever, and they just fucking put on a killer show. So, I highly recommend that.
All right. Well, I'm glad you got to catch a show that was worthy. Now, tell us about the show that was not worthy.
Was not worthy. Would that be Van Halen, perhaps?
I'm going to go by your input here.
Well, before I get into Van Halen, I will say that talk about other worthy shows. I'll give a plug out to my good buddy Marty Friedman. He did a show at the Whiskey on Wednesday. Place was packed. The Whiskey, it's all instrumental. I don't know if you've heard the last few Marty Friedman albums. But this last one, especially, Inferno, amazing album. All instrumental, so that kind of gets old after a while. But I mean, I just love his guitar playing. He's just amazing. He had a Japanese chick on bass who fucking shredded, and a Japanese drummer and another guitar player who's actually from Arizona. And great show. Again, all instrumental, so it was, a little bit boring. I did see your boy there, though.
Ooh.
Neely's boy.
Who, Don?
No, not Don. You're good boy, man. You're good buddy.
Who, Nader?
No. Closer than Nader. Come on.
Eddie Trunk? Eddie Trunk?
Yes, Eddie Trunk. He was wearing a CMS shirt.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, where'd you get that? He said, I don't know. I just found it laying on some table somewhere.
Right.
No, Eddie was there. I didn't say hi to him, but I know he went back, after the show, tons of people went back there, and I just kind of hung back for a while because there was such a crowd there. And I went back, and they were actually doing a documentary on Marty. They had a guy following him around. They have like this big giant dressing room there that a lot of people were in, and he's filming. And then the next thing I know is, Marty introduces, this is Bob. He's the one that got me the Megadeth gig and this and that. And I'm doing an interview for the documentary about how I got him in Megadeth, and seeing Marty with Hawaii when he first came over to Orange County. So that was fun. It was good.
Is that true, Bob? Did you really get Marty into Megadeth?
Of course.
I'm just asking the question. I mean, no, is that
I got Don Dawkins and Dawkins. I got David Coverdale and Whitesnake.
All right, Eddie.
I got Robert.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, I did. I did get Marty in.
Really? Tell us that story. I didn't know that story. Tell me that story.
Well, no, you're going to have to buy the documentary in Japan.
You're going to tell us
go fly out to Japan and buy it, dude. I don't give these stories out for free.
No, you're giving this one out for free. We're hanging up on you.
Oh, see, I don't have to boast about the shit I've done. I thought you had known that. I was managing Marty with Cacophony. I kind of, I had always been working close with Marty, so I was kind of like his manager. They said, start, working with Cacophony. I wasn't actually managing Cacophony, but when Marty was doing the solo stuff, he wanted me to manage him, and he knew there was some stuff going on with Cacophony because at that time, Jason just got the Jason Becker, who I absolutely love. He just got the David Lee Roth gig. And then Dean Castronova just got the Bad English gig. And so Marty's going, yeah, dude, I don't know. They were going to do one more Cacophony record. And he's like, I don't think it's happening. I'm doing the solo thing. I think he was actually working with Anders Johansson on drums. And he was living in L.A., back in L.A., because him and Jason were living in L.A. and teaching at GIT and stuff. And He goes, Bob, I want a gig, man. Can you find me a great gig? And at that time, I was good friends with Ron Lafitte, who was managing Megadeth at the time, and who's now actually, I just we're emailing back and forth with Ron the other day. He's like one of the biggest managers out there now. He co-manages U2 and Madonna and Pharrell and Alicia Keys, but he's an old school metal guy, and he managed Megadeth for years. And we were talking, and he was telling me that they're going to be looking for a new guitar player. And I said, dude, Marty Friedman. So I, introduced him. I gave him a bunch of Cacophony stuff and old Hawaii stuff, and it worked out like that. So
wow. Well, Bob, does it ever bother you that a guy of your caliber and your experience and your background and your involvement, that a guy like Eddie Trunk, who more or less just plays Stump the Trunk because he's, gets more notoriety than you, and a guy like you definitely have more cred, more street cred, and you don't get quite the notoriety?
Nah, I don't. You know what, dude? Eddie Trunk is great for what he does.
And what does he do, Bob? What does he do?
Just like yourselves, I couldn't see you doing a VH1 thing. You guys do what you do, and what you do is great. And it's made for the internet, Eddie does his, that metal show, with Don and Jim. And, it's more of a family-oriented thing, obviously. And I like doing my own thing. And I do, and I'm happy I've got, I don't need the pat on the back all the time. I don't need to be, people that know me know. And I like doing the stuff the way I do it. The T Radio V show, I control that show.
Yeah, but it'd be nice if somebody would write you a check now and again.
Well, that would be nice. But, again, I'm not, I've turned down big gigs all throughout since the 90s and stuff. I didn't want to be involved in, I had big publicity gigs here and there, this and that. I would start working with them. It's like, fuck, man, this ain't me. I hate the fucking music business. I hate that side of it. I'm going to do what I do. And, I survive. Yeah. Would it be great to make more money on that part? Yeah. But, you have to, as to do something like that, it's not just the money. You have to go along with a lot of the bullshit. There's a lot of politics involved when you get, if you were to get a gig, say like with a VH1 or whatever, you have to please the sponsors. You have to be careful what you say. You can't do this. You have to play it this way. And, at this point, I really don't give a fuck. I'm going to be 51 in a few days. And it's like, at this point, I'm happy. I'm single like you, Neely. I don't have any kids or an old lady to support. So,
Hey, I'm single.
There you go.
And Neely's got a young lady to support.
I know. Well, yeah. I know he's got to, put her through nursery school and all that. But, it's costly, but, Neely could still do what he does.
Sure.
Right? And by the way, it never does get old. You're going to be hearing a lot more of that.
That's why you're one of us, Bob.
That's right.
That's why you're one of us.
Yes. So should we get to Van Halen?
Yes.
Or is there other more,
No, I got to ask you, since we brought up Eddie Trunk, or I brought up Eddie Trunk. Yes. Did you hear the discussion this past Monday? Our good friend Wheezy, who I know you're a fan of.
Absolutely.
Turned me on to this. Yeah, turned me on to this, but they did have a very lively Van Halen discussion on Eddie Trunk's Sirius satellite show with Bobby Blotzer and Don Dokken and Doug Pinnick and a bunch of other people. Yeah, they were in L.A., and he did a show from L.A. this past Monday. But
like I said, he was at the Marty show, and I actually just sent Eddie an email. I don't know if he checks his email or if he'll send, but I invited him on the T Radio V show. I said, if you're going to be in L.A., you want to come on down.
And he went, who?
He's like, who? But you know what? Speaking of which, I do like his podcast a lot. I mean, Eddie's very good, and I think I heard Chris talking earlier when he interviewed Frankie Banali.
Yes.
I did hear part of that. I will say, I mean, I know you've got this hatred toward Eddie there, Dealey.
That's Chris saying that.
But Eddie does do some fantastic interviews. And my point is, when he's on VH1, he's got to do kind of the more simplistic interviews. But if you listen to his podcasts and some of this stuff, he does get down. I would love to listen to this Van Halen one because I'm sure it's quite good.
Well, they got to the point where they were discussing the current Van Halen tour and that abysmal double live CD they released earlier in the year.
Right.
And even Eddie was just saying, David Lee Roth's vocals were so horrific that
Dude, how could you hide it, though? I mean, anyone that would say he sounds great, you either know they're just, completely lying or completely on drugs. I mean, no one really could say that, oh, man, Roth is sounding fucking great.
Well, John 5 did. He said it. He was just like, oh, Roth was fantastic. He was great.
Stop it.
Did he say he sang great?
Yeah, he did.
Really?
You got to hear it. It's available. But anyway, regardless of that, even Eddie, as politically correct as he can be, on his normal VH1 show or his commercial radio show, he actually said that he had gotten reports about how horrific Roth was on this tour. And on some nights he was good. Other nights he was unbearable. Other nights he was up there doing a song and dance show that while the brothers looked on in horror, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. See, I heard that too. And I think on your show, you were saying that, Eddie, he's sounding better. And I actually saw some clips where he didn't sound too bad.
When I saw him in July,
right.
And, I'll be as critical as anybody, but he actually put on a bearable, decent show. It was not shticky. It was not vaudevillian. It wasn't just wacky. He sung the songs as straight on as you could possibly do on a live setting, and it was actually pretty decent.
Well, I think maybe him playing in L.A. and it's his hometown, he might have felt the need to be a little bit more shticky or a little bit, like you could totally tell he thought it was like his show where he had to be he's like a clown. He had to be the center of attraction. And, I talked to a lot of people about the show after the show, and even people I respect whose opinions, Roth was great. I go, dude, he was, you really think he was great? He goes, but that's Roth. That's how Roth was. Even back in the day. And Roth never was a great singer live. Listen.
No, that's not even the issue. How can that be the answer? That's just who he is? Bullshit.
That's what people always say. Well, Roth is just being Roth. That's David Lee Roth, man. That's what you expect when you see Van Halen. That stickiness, that kind of,
So you expect a shit show?
According to me or you, that's what But people that love David Lee Roth and a lot of people love that shtick, apparently. But I mean, most people were saying, he sounded horrible. I think this show, the show you saw, Neeley, he probably did sound halfway decent. I could see where he's probably one of those guys that could pull off maybe 1 or 2 shows per every 10 shows. That would be good. And you could tell his voice wasn't there. He was kind of off key here and there. And the background vocals were way up, as was the guitar. And Wolfie's vocals weren't bad. I don't know if there was backtracking or not. I'm not going to say that. It was not as good as, the Michael Anthony, but the background vocals were very predominant. You could really hear them. And they were covering a lot of from what Dave was just kind of like mumbling, stumbling and mumbling through some of these lines.
And where did you
comedy routine?
And where did you see this?
This is at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay, all right.
And it was so Vegas-y, the show with the lights, the bright lights. It wasn't. AC/DC had a cool lighting show with different stuff. This was all just the bright Vegas-y kind of lights. And Wolfie, I mean, the guy just does not look the part. He doesn't. He looks like this big, football player.
Yeah, he's a big
kid.
He's a big fat kid.
He's a big fat kid, and he played well. I mean, but he just looks out of place.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the lean, mean musician type. He's just this big fat kid with a bass guitar around his neck.
And that more than anything looked like a Van Halen cover band, even though there's 3 original members. What I'm saying is I mean, like I said, I've seen AC/DC at least 10 times. I saw him back with Bon Scott. when I saw AC/DC, that was AC/DC, regardless of only having two, actually one original member, if you want to, get down to it, being Angus. But I mean, it was AC/DC, seeing Van Halen just didn't seem like Van Halen, the way Roth was doing these stupid moves. I mean, just dumb moves. Eddie Van Halen was awesome. Eddie sounded awesome. Just like you guys had said, he's, his guitar playing is still flawless. And he didn't move around that much. He didn't, that was another thing. Usually when you expect to see Van Halen, you expect to see them all like really moving around. And here you have Wolfie and on one corner that just looks like this fat kid playing bass, and Eddie just kind of standing there doing his thing. And he kind of looked a little bit, there was a moment where him and Dave kind of bonded together. They gave each other a hug, and they were talking about, he said some kind of funny stories about, the old Gazzari days and talking about some of the old times they had. And, so I think he did a little bit special show for LA, which was kind of cool. And, there were some things about Dave that I understand. I know what Dave's about. It's kind of sticky and this and that. Some of it, it's okay. It was passable. But then there was other things, especially vocally, where you're just cringing going, ugh, man. But,
and then he went, okay, all right, everybody, jazz hands.
I don't remember him saying that. I heard about that with jazz hands.
When we saw him in Wisconsin, it was, here's one I remember. And then he proceeded to not remember any of the fucking words. Idiot.
Yeah, it was kind of schlocky, to say the least. But, we had fun. We were drinking and having a good old time.
So what was the best part of the show? Was it the show, or was it just the drinking and the camaraderie?
What I was pissed about is Toby and I, we went to get some beer before the show, and they had, usually, and we had like a box. Jonas hooked us up with great seats. They have like these boxes at the Hollywood Bowl.
Because men like boxes.
Yeah.
According to Bob Leather.
What's that?
According to Bob Leather, men like boxes.
This is true. So we had 4 men per box. So picture that.
That's sloppy. 4
men in one box. So Bob Leather would like that. But no, it was great seats. But usually what I was going to say is Hollywood Bowl, they allow you to bring your own alcohol in for like their summer concerts. You could bring a picnic basket and bring beer and bottles of wine and all sorts of stuff. But of course, on this show, they didn't allow any alcohol, and they only had a couple alcohol stands. So we went to get beer. So we missed like the first 4 songs, which were the best songs: "Light Up the Sky" and "Romeo's Delight" and
"Bring Me a Doctor."
Yeah, somebody get me a doctor. So that pissed me off. That these are the best. We were watching it on the big screen and whatnot, and the heavier sounds actually sounded pretty good, despite David Lee Roth. But the set list was, it was, I get, people just go, well, it's Van Halen. That's Van Halen. And I guess it is Van Halen. I never was a huge Van Halen fan, to be honest. I mean, I like their first few albums, but I always thought that live, they were always kind of, just sticky.
Right.
But, it was fun though. We had a good time. So there you go.
Well, I like the fact that, Bob, you and I are very, close in age, and fact that you're not a married dude and you're not tied down with children, and you can go out there and see shows and hang out.
Yeah, but the difference is, Neely, I date chicks that are over 18. I don't date chicks in preschool. I do date a lot of young girls, but I make sure they're at least over 18.
And you can go out there and hang with your buds and not catch a lot of shit and do your T-Radio V show and, produce that Inside Metal and, all that kind of stuff. So, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm cool, man. You should know that, Neely.
That's right.
You're just trying to live like me.
Right. I pattern my life after you.
Yes. And I'll tell you, I'm looking to, I haven't called you up about a date yet because we haven't got everything set up. Our editor for Inside Metal, he had to go through surgery. So we've kind of a month behind schedule now. or actually a little over a month. He had to take a month off, and we didn't want to switch editors and blah, blah, blah. So we're looking for, I'm hoping we can still do a November release. All we're doing now, everything's done. We've actually had it to the editor in July. So he's got it. We sequenced everything how we want it, all the music. John Bush did the narration, which sounds amazing. So we're placing in the music and the photos and the videos. So it should be, he's hoping we'll wrap it up in the next couple of weeks. We'll have it all together. So we'll be planning a big screening party here in LA soon. So I'll definitely give you the heads up as soon as we get it set up.
Nice. Well, our boy Chris here hung out with your boy John Bush a couple weeks ago.
I heard the interview. That's cool.
Yeah, he was fun. He was definitely.
Yeah. John's always awesome. Coolest dude.
But is it me or when and you know the guy real well. When you run into him, he looks like he's like 100.
I heard that on the interview. I saw some old man sitting there, and
but then when you get up close to, or when he gets, again, he was just sitting there and he's like reading or something. But once he got into it, it was John Bush. But I mean, he's got skinny, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah,
He's got to have lost 30 pounds from when he was in Anthrax.
I don't know about 30 pounds. He is thinner. I know he plays a lot of basketball and stuff. I mean, I see him so often, I don't really notice the change. I mean, apart from, obviously he's bald. And again, he just wants to be like me, which, who could blame him? But, apart from that, it's still John Bush. He's, live, he's just as energetic and as youthful as he always was. But
I will say that I was stunned at how good he was and how powerful he was doing those Saint tunes, man. He is what he really, and I'm not just saying this because he's a total bro of mine. I've known him forever, but he's one of the greatest metal singers. He's right up there with the Halfords, Dio, Dickinson. I mean, Bush is really a world class metal singer. Vince Neil,
David Lee Roth. He's right up there with those cats.
I mean,
Bret Michaels, of course. Right? Well, I take that, but he's not that good. I mean, come on.
Now, I in all seriousness, I don't think he has lost anything on his vocal. Nothing.
Well, they're smart too. That they just pick and choose, which a lot of bands do now in the '80s. They'll do fly-ins or just do. Saint maybe does. Well, actually, they're playing a lot more this year than usual. They actually did that whole Saxon tour, but usually they'll just do the European festivals and just a handful of shows. So he could really rest up his voice. But I know, certain times, when he's really bogged down with a lot of dates, because he always goes all out. That's right. Just the way John sings. And I've noticed certain dates, where he's got a little laryngitis or whatever. So, but he really takes care of his voice. And of course, everyone, we're all older, and he knows a little bit. He doesn't party as much, obviously, and knows not to do certain things before a show, especially diet wise and stuff, what to eat and what not to. So he really keeps up with that as well. So he trains himself.
Well, Bob, you know what an Armored Saint fan I am, and this new one win hands down record of the year.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, it is a great album, and they always deliver. And they always
put Bob?
out totally
Can
different
you deliver?
records. I mean, they've never repeated the same album twice.
Sure. Well, it's a shame that a band like Armored Saint, who isn't on a big record label and doesn't get the accolades that some of the bigger bands get, but they are on par with just about anybody out there, but they don't get the recognition that they should.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a lot of Armored Saint in this new movie. Obviously, it's 81 to or 82 to 86, and everyone says, "Dude, I can't believe John Bush got offered Metallica and he didn't take it." Well, back then, Armored Saint were actually they were bigger than Metallica. They were on a major, and Armored Saint were one of the big LA bands. You had, this was at the time when Motley and I think Rat were just kind of getting to the, out of the club level. But back in the clubs, Wasp, Black and Blue, Armored Saint. Armored Saint were packing them in. I mean, they, sold out Perkins Palace. They were a big LA band, and we all kind of thought they were going to really go on to be, as big as, maybe not as big as Metallica, but at least as big as, bands like, Rat and some of the other bands that had their day. But it just didn't happen for them. They had a lot of bad decisions. I don't think the record company, I don't think Chrysalis was really the right label for them, and they didn't really know how to break a metal band. I mean, their whole thing was, let's break them on radio, because that's, at the time, Chrysalis had, Billy Idol and Pat Benatar and Huey Lewis, and they were a big radio kind of label. They didn't really have any of the heavy, they had heavy bands in the 70s, UFO and, Robin Trower and, Jethro Tull. But that was like their only metal band, and they just didn't know how to break them.
Bob, do you think that they would have broken had Pritchard not died? Because Symbol, I mean, Jesus Christ, that's a good record.
That was a great album. And I heard the demos from that with Dave on it, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I don't know, when you say break, I don't know. I think I like the Raising Fear album. I think it was a mistake for them to go 4-piece. I didn't care for the production of that album so much, and I thought it was kind of thrown together a bit. But Book of Blood, there's some fucking great songs on that. Sure. And Bush kind of changed his vocal style a little bit. Like I said, they always tried something a little bit different. And I think that was like their worst selling record at the time. And I think that's when Chrysalis just kind of, lost it with them. And then they got dropped and they got picked up by Metal Blade when they did Symbol. And, I think if Dave was, I know if Dave was alive, they would have definitely stuck it out, till this, a lot longer as a band, not just playing part-time here and there, but it would have been, I think it would have been more of a family, because that really did break the band up for a while, and they were just confused, didn't know where to go, what to do. And,
Yeah. Just sad though, man. I mean, you listen to that record and you consider the time that it was released, and you could say, I mean, that was like the same exact, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the same timing that like Anthrax and Metallica or Metallica and Megadeth and everybody was all hitting huge.
Yeah.
To where that style of music was hot. And that record was kind of, it's not so heavy that you had to be like a Slayer guy, but it wasn't pussy metal either.
Yeah.
It was just,
again, and it's funny because we have like a kind of a whole section in the movie about this. I think at that time, that album came out in 91 or so.
Yeah.
But that whole era in LA from the mid 80s up until the early 90s, it was you're either glam or you're thrash. And right. The bands that were in between, like Warrior is a great example. Fighting for the Earth. I don't know if you've heard that album. That is a fucking great album.
Yep.
And it's just real hardcore European traditional metal. It's not thrash. It's like a Judas Priest kind of thing. But same with a band like Malice. That first Malice album was great. Mm-hmm. And you had bands like that, Leatherwolf, Racer X, a band I managed, Eden. They had great songs. We had some, radio play. There was, but they just never, they didn't fit into a group. And I guess Lizzie Borden was kind of the same. They kind of looked glammy, but they sounded like Iron Maiden. They didn't. Right. You either had to, and there's a lot of talk about that in the the movie. A lot of the labels were pushing all these bands. I don't know if you remember bands like Pandemonium. They were real kind of pretty boys, but they liked to play Sabbath and all that. But the labels, there was always this push, from the media to be more glam. You have to be like this to get on MTV, to do this, and I think that tore a lot of those bands apart because, they were listening, and not just the LA bands, a lot of the British, you look at bands like Saxon, and I don't know if you remember, after Crusader, Saxon just totally went to shit, and even Raven and a lot of the new wave of British heavy metal bands, Tigers of Pantang, Diamond Head, they were all going they all wanted to be like a Def Leppard and to kind of capitalize. And I don't know if it was them so much, it was more or less the label and the producer. It's like, you either do this or you get dropped. This album didn't sell that much. You either, work with this songwriter and they throw him with a fucking,
Desmond Child,
or exactly, and they really had no choice. It's like, well, you either do it or you get dropped, and that happened a lot. And a lot of people that weren't in the business that weren't in LA at that time, even Armored Saint, they said they put them together with a songwriter. Chrysalis did.
Wow.
And, Judas Priest, that even happened with the big bands like Judas Priest. You probably heard those songs that Judas Priest did. It's online. Did you hear the AOR songs they did?
I've heard them. Yeah, they're real bad.
Yeah, real bad. But, they had even on this, back to Screaming for Vengeance, that guy Bob Halligan, who was the big Canadian songwriter. He co-wrote songs like Pain and Pleasure or some of the more commercial songs. And the ironic thing is those songs weren't the songs that got the radio play, So,
yep.
Fortunately for a band like Priest, they didn't need that. They were able to take off without it. But, yeah, there was a lot of pressure back then for, labels wanted every band to be like a Bon Jovi or whatnot. So it kind of tore the LA scene in particular apart.
Well, Armored Saint was always a favorite of mine. I know I've told you this before, Bob, that I probably discovered Armored Saint through that radio show Metal Shop.
Yeah.
The only show with teeth. Whatever happened to that show?
Oh, dude, none of the radio shows are around anymore. That was MJI Broadcasting. I don't know if that's even still in existence, but it was like one of those syndicated shows. I think the only syndicated show they have now is Rockline.
Yeah, Rockline with
Bob Coburn.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, in LA, we don't even get like Nights with Alice Cooper or any of the other hard rock radio shows. We just get complete shit. I mean, KLOS is just utter shit.
Right.
You don't get 6 cents.
No, I don't. Maybe there's a station in LA that plays it. I've never heard it. I never heard the Dee Snider hair metal show either. But
Is that still on?
I don't know. I have no idea because again, we never got that in LA for whatever reason. You would think LA is a huge market, but KLOS would rather just play the same 30 songs by the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, and Tom Petty over and over and over again.
Well, I'm surprised you don't get 80s hair band world out there.
Well, no, that's actually the biggest. Yeah, we got that in Natalie's world,
right?
Just taking over.
Well, Bob, tell us what's going on with T Radio V, and what do you got coming up? You got anything scheduled, or does that just kind of happen on a week-to-week basis? Or
it happens on a week-to-week basis. The last one I did actually was a pre-record show.
Oh, pre-record!
Oh,
yeah, and that was with Jonas Auckland, and Toby calls in. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that.
Not yet. But I will. I will tomorrow.
He's the guy that we went out to the concerts with. Total metal. He's probably the biggest video director in the world right now for music videos. Also, movie director. He does tons of all that. The big commercials you see on TV. And the guy's a total hardcore metal. He was actually the original drummer in Bathory, the Swedish, the first Swedish death metal band. So he's on this episode. If you go to the Inside Metal Show, just go to tradiov.com and search Inside Metal. And this week, I haven't actually confirmed anyone. So you know what that means. If I can't confirm anyone, I might hit you guys up last minute to get on.
Well, you need to give me more than last minute notice because
I'll let you know. I'm supposed to get a confirmation this weekend. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe Eddie Trunk will email me back and say, yeah, I'd love to come on.
And he'll say, who?
Who?
Bob, who?
Eddie knows me. I didn't talk to him at Marty because there were just too many people around. But I've met him a couple of times, and I've interviewed him for my podcast. So.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with Eddie like you do.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, like you, Neil.
According to Chris.
I don't have a problem with him. I like him.
I said according to Chris.
Right.
I'm the one who has the problem, according to Chris.
Look, right. The fans all agree with me from hearing you tell your story.
But the problem with T Radio V is obviously I got to get the person live on a Tuesday at, I mean, we could always do the pre-records, but and the Skype thing works, especially with you guys, because you guys got such good equipment.
Yeah, we got good equipment. Yeah, I've invested millions of dollars into studio equipment here, Bob, just so we could appear well on T Radio V.
That's right. So so we'll find. What do you think of Jasmine St. Clair, Mike? Did you see any of the episodes I did with her?
I like her.
Yeah,
she's great. She's gonna. Well, go ahead.
She does not pull any punches, and I love her for it.
And again, what has she's got to lose?
Nothing.
Well, she really knows her metal, and I was kind of skeptical when I got her on the show, and I'm going, wow, as a guest, I go, this chick is great, and then we talked, and she said she'd want to co-host, so I told her she's got open, so she'll be on with me this coming Tuesday. And I said, anytime you're in town and want to do it, I mean, and we work great together. I mean, I don't have anything, planned. I don't, kind of like your shows. I just say, we just, shoot from the hip and just, go with it. And she's great like that. She could just roll with it, and she really does know her metal. She's, and she's fun. And like you said, she don't pull no punches, and she's got a great personality on for TV. So, yeah.
Well, the question I got, Bob, aside from the fact that you've approached her and said, anytime you're in town and want to do it, will she be doing it with her panties off?
Well, that's going to come down to you, Mr. Neeley. You might have to convince her of that.
I don't need to convince her. She's a pro.
Yeah, she's trying to put that behind her, obviously. And
that's an interesting choice of words, Bob. She's putting that behind her.
Yes, we all want to put it behind her.
Right, exactly.
Yes. And, but no, it's funny because a lot of people, you get the people, you're just getting her because she was a sex porn star just to make her. No, man, she knows her fucking metal and she's a great host.
Yeah, she
could
knows
be
her
a 400-pound fat slob, and I would. If she was,
that's how I get on.
It could work. What's that?
I said that's how I get on.
Yeah, but you don't have a box there,
right?
No, that is true.
And men like boxes. We've learned.
Like boxes.
Yes, absolutely. But no, she's good. So she'll be on this Tuesday, and we'll see who we get on. You never know, and if I ever do need you, I'll definitely give you guys an advance notice. I should know by this weekend, but we do have some good stuff lined up. But it's just a matter of, getting it on with them on a Tuesday on 3 p.m. in Hollywood. So that's always kind of been the struggle. It's hard to get bands that are touring and stuff to make it down that day. But we have we have some good stuff planned. We'll see what happens.
Excellent, Bob. All right, well, go check out Bob over at TRadioV.com and check out Inside Metal, and looking forward to that next installment of Inside Metal.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to it too. It'll be good.
All right, Bob. Well, in the chat room, since we were talking about Armored Saint, I got a request for some Armored Saint to take us out of this segment.
Awesome.
Symbol of Salvation, Burning Question.
Yeah, good tune. Really good tune.
Of course it is.
It's a very underrated song, too.
It's Armored Saint. What do you want?
This is true.
All right, Bob. Well, the door is always open, pal. You don't need an invite.
Well, I appreciate that. If I have other news to talk about, I will definitely let you know.
All right. Well, there goes the West Coast Eddie Trunk.
Yes.
Bob Nalbandian.
Wow, that's a compliment coming from you.
To everybody except
I'll
me.
take it as one.
Can we stop?
I actually like Eddie, so there.
Yeah, so does Chris.
I know.
So,
you're the only hater.
Yeah, I'm a hater.
You're a hater, dude.
Except for Taylor says he's a cunt.
Taylor's a hater too. I heard her talk shit about
she said Eddie's
an asshole.
She said Eddie's a cunt.
Oh, is what that's right. I'm sorry. I always get assholes and cunts mixed up, Eddie's a cunt. Wow.
That's what Taylor says.
Well, if Taylor says it, it's got to be true. Those nursery girls, they know.
They do.
Nursery school girls.
They do. All right, Bob. Well, we'll have you back again. So since we're all fans of Armored Saint, we'll play some Symbol of Salvation with Burning Question. And the burning question is when will Bob come back on the Classic Metal Show again?
Maybe next week. You never know.
You never know. All right, Bob. Here's Armored Saint with what?
Burning Question on your Classic Metal Show.